We talked about Alpine Divorce yesterday. I'm talking about it again because this type of situation needs to go far and wide. It needs to span different social medias. It needs to span different medias, and it's gaining traction. So this was printed in the Daily Dot. Yahoo picked it up as well. It says men are allegedly abandoning women on hikes, sparking discussion of the Alpine divorce. And I'm going to share some more stories that I gathered from threads because so many women are telling their stories because, like it says, it's sparking discussion. The concept of Alpine divorce is gaining attention across social media after a woman shared a TikTok claiming that her boyfriend left her behind on a hike. All right, it says, just saw a TikTok of a girl whose boyfriend abandoned her during a hike in the woods. The comments were all about how this is a thing multiple men do. It's so common, it's called Alpine Divorce, and there are support groups for it. All I can say is WTF is wrong with men. Why would you ever consider abandoning someone that way? I'm mortified. I did not know that there were support groups for this. What is Alpine divorce? In short, the term Alpine divorce refers to the idea of quitting a marriage by taking a significant other up into the mountains and either leaving them behind and leaving their fate up to chance or fully orchestrating their demise. And people are sitting up here like clutching their pearls at the fact that women don't want to get married or be in relationships or are going to be single by 2030 or whatever the stat is. And then you have people talking about this, getting left in different places. T over on X or Twitter says, just found out Alpine divorce is a thing and women are recalling being abandoned on hikes in remote areas. Some of y'all need to start toting firearms and using them. I don't know. I went over to threads to collect some stories. So we have the Sage and Spirit saying, since Alpine divorce is trending, let me tell you how my keen intuition saved my butt from being left by an abusive ex in the woods. I'm an avid hiker. I'm well trained in survival, prefer the wilderness to humans. My ex, who did not hike, randomly decided it would be romantic to go hike at one of the local mountains. He picked a precarious route, and when I inquired if he was sure, he became standoffish and adamant that was the route we were taking. Like most things throughout this relationship, something felt wrong. So I made up some excuse about it being easier if we took separate vehicles since all my gear was in my truck already. He didn't like it, but I wasn't going unless I drove myself. The first few miles in were him berating me, the usual things, but then eventually letting slip how I ruined his plan. I asked how I ruined his plan. He states the plan was for one vehicle. Then he stopped and said he had to go to the bathroom. Told me to keep going, he'd catch up. At this point, I'm at a trail junction, one leading to the summit. I'm well prepared and know my best bet to find a group of hikers was to go up. Now concerned as to what his next move would be. Would he try to assault me and leave me for dead? I made sure my protection was accessible, squared up my shoulders like a big girl, and started my ascent. That MF texted me good luck and walked back to his vehicle. I knew his plan was to leave me in the woods all along, and I had foiled it. He picked a trail known for hikers getting lost. It was advanced compared to other routes. I came prepared with proper gear and my own plan. I turned it into one of my best solo hikes, but also could have been worse. Unfortunately, we lived together, which meant having to return to the house and him. And like any seasoned abuser, I made sure I didn't talk. He made sure I didn't talk or leave for several more months after this happened. I'm glad that she did eventually leave. I wonder if she goes into more detail. The Dirkmeister says, learning about this trend is disturbing me to my bones. I have no words except rage for the men who are willing to do this and sorrow for you women who have endured this. Glad you kept your wits about you. F the patriarchy. And the Sage and Spirit says, this was almost a decade ago for me. So to see this trending makes me sad for anyone else that has ever been trapped by an abusive partner. Sunset Park Cat says, you ruined my plan was such a head F for me. It started with normal things like a surprise date, but as things got worse, I realized he was always planning things on multiple levels and manipulating multiple people at once and couldn't ever just live or choose or move with integrity. Everything is always a plan with abusers. The Sage in Spirit says, extremely calculated. I Freeze Time says, I don't understand how people can be this way. Maybe I'm naive. If he didn't like you, why not just end it? Why abuse someone else? That is terrible. This is a whole nother post. This is Government Cheese saying, leaving a DV situation even years later means I have typed and deleted a dozen posts related to this and am resorting to leaving a very vague post here because he's still around. If you're going through it right now, I see you. Don't go on the hiking trip with him. All right, we have someone named Wallace Sean's Lisp saying, my Alpine divorce wasn't a breakup. It was my father, and it happened over and over again. The first time when I was about 6, we'd be biking, and then without warning, he'd just pedal away. I'd struggle to keep up, but I was a small child on a bike with 12-inch tires, and he was on a road bike, so he outpaced me in a blink. I'd have to find my way back to where we parked alone and terrified. He also did this hiking and skiing. When I made it back to the car or lodge, he'd just nod. I didn't express how afraid I was. I understood that I wasn't allowed to be. I understood that his respect and therefore his love was conditional on my unconditional bravery and resourcefulness. I became hypervigilant about my surroundings, always planning where I could sleep if he left without me, what was nearby to make shelter, what I could use to make my way out, what plants were edible and in season. He told me he did it to teach me independence. Later, when I inevitably got into abusive relationships, he threw it in my face as though his doing that to me was supposed to have inoculated me against maltreatment, as though it ought to have made me so tough and self-assured that I'd never accept abuse. And the fact that I did was clearly evidence of my disease, as he called it. This isn't nearly all of what he perpetuated, of course. Anyway, he doesn't speak to either of his adult children and hasn't met 2 of his grandchildren. Neither of his children went to the hospital when he had a life-threatening illness. Yet he remains a central figure in the Al-Anon community in Seattle, where people fawn over his wisdom, listening to him speak about things like making amends for wrongs committed and living a life in radical honesty. Go understand. It took me a decade plus, but both my sister and I managed to put ourselves right and end the cycle of abuse in our own lives. I'm very proud of us. It's not all men. I'm married to one of the best ones in the game, but it damn sure is a lot of them. And in my experience, most of them seem to worship the worst of them. Now let's move to this post from this woman named Danny. She says, the Alpine divorce trend really brought back some memories that I want to share for everyone's safety. I work part-time at a ski resort in Verano as an interpreter, and I can't even tell you the amount of times I've had to translate for injured people that would not have otherwise been injured if they weren't left alone at the top of the mountain. Many times their more experienced partners will drag, then leave complete beginners at the peak, and they have to figure out a way alone to come down the slopes, resulting in many avoidable accidents like strains, fractures, dislocated knees, broken shins, and even broken rib cages. Never ever leave each other behind and always wait for the other person. If you are the more experienced skier or snowboarder, please watch your partner from behind safely. It's always heartbreaking to see them try to reach their partner from a stretcher to no answer. But this is if it wasn't any malintent. Some of these people have the intention on letting their partners get hurt or worse, die. So this is good for somebody that might be more experienced taking a novice out. This doesn't help anybody that's just out here being malicious or the victim of somebody that's being malicious. All right, we got one more divorce story. She says, here's my Alpine divorce story. My partner and I had a boat that we stayed on in the Bahamas during the winter. We kept the boat in a small anchorage off Manjack Cay and got supplies off Green Turtle Cay. He was upset and wanted to teach me a lesson. I got out the dinghy and he sped away. He left me at the dock with just my bag. Luckily, I had my passport. He went back to the boat, pulled up anchor, and left me to figure out how to get back to the States. This picture goes with so many of these stories. Whole man disposal. Every day, every single day, there is something to report on where women are just unsafe. Girls are unsafe. You see that there are dads doing this. There are boyfriends doing this. There are husbands doing this. And it's not just hiking. It's taking people out on boats and leaving them. It's ridiculous how much women have to do, how much they have to go through, and all of these different things. Is it any wonder some women are just simply opting out and saying it's not worth it? Anyways, keep chiming in, keep sharing these stories, keep letting other people know about this so they can keep their head on the swivel and know and understand that these things, these people, these monsters are out there.
My entire timeline this week has been talking about Alpine divorces, and an Alpine divorce is when a man takes you up into the Alps and leaves you there in hopes that you will die as a way of breaking up with you. Great. That entire conversation makes me want to tell you guys dates that women should be saying no to, largely in general, but especially as first dates, in hopes of mitigating the likelihood that a man will take them somewhere and kill them. The first one is hiking. Hiking is great. Have the best time hiking. You're going to go hiking in places where you can guarantee there will be other people at all times. You're going to go hiking in places where you are going to have cell service at all times. He wants to hike Runyon Canyon with you, Griffith Park, phenomenal. He wants to hike the gorges in Ithaca that are fenced in with you, phenomenal. He wants to hike a random ski trail that hasn't been touched in years because his boys told him about it and it's going to be beautiful. He's going to go by himself. You're going to make some hot cocoa for when he comes home, and then he's going to tell you all about it. Boating! Boating is so much fun. He wants to take you boating on the most popular lake? Of course. He wants to take you boating in the middle of nowhere, where no one would know if you fell overboard. Not happening, sweetheart. Whitewater rafting. No idea why people find this fun, but to each his own. He wants to take you whitewater rafting at a popular tourist location with other people around. Of course, have a ball. He wants to take you whitewater rafting on your own? In a place you've never heard of, your friends and family have never heard of and won't find you? Where that phone's not gonna work because you'll be whitewater rafting? No, girl. And of course I don't make this video to say that women should know better than to go on exciting, adventurous excursions with the significant others in their lives. At some point, to some extent, you're going to trust your boyfriend, you're going to trust your husband, etc. Otherwise, the relationship isn't going to work. But women also have been socialized to accept activities or put themselves in situations that they feel uneasy about to avoid being rude or seen as overreactive or overdramatic. Be overdramatic when it comes to your safety. You do not have to do anything that makes you feel uneasy or unsafe or that is high risk just because someone in your life wants to do it. No. And very clearly, time and time again, women are proven right for being apprehensive to engage in said excursions. So
I just found out about this thing called Alpine Divorce. I just found out about this thing, and I realized I have experienced it and lived through it. So let's sit down, let's talk about my Alpine Divorce. For those of you who don't know what Alpine Divorce is, it is a phenomenon where women are left alone while hiking with a man. There's maybe more into it. I literally just ran across it. I'm going to set the scene because I feel so good knowing that I'm not alone in this experience. It's 5 years ago. Someone I met online, a guy that I really liked, asked if I wanted to move him from Idaho to Southern California. I said yes, that sounds so fun. We're going to do a road trip all the way to Washington down. And I still think I saw such beautiful things on this trip. But there's a kicker. He needed me to drive his stick shift truck across while he drove in a separate car, and I followed him. Okay. Now I know how to drive stick shift. But I live in a very flat place, and I've driven stick shift maybe a handful of times, but I felt confident enough that maybe I could refresh my skills and do it. There were multiple times on this trip that I did stall out, especially on hills in San Francisco, but that was crazy. Where I experienced my Alpine Divorce was in a 10-day trip or something, maybe less, it could have been 7 days or something. On this trip, about past halfway through it, we go to see the Redwood, I think it's a national park, Redwood's National Park, right? And I'm driving behind him, and all of a sudden, I've lost him. And I'm in a car that I don't really know how to drive that well, and I'm like, where is he? No big deal, I'll call him, right? No signal. I drive around Redwoods for 35, 45 minutes by myself. I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, okay, maybe we've just lost each other, whatever. I finally get out to the highway, out of the park and get onto a highway, get some cell service, and no text, no call from him, nothing. No, hey, where are you? I could have drove off with this man's car. Nonetheless, I call, because I was very naive at this time in my life and very young. I call, I'm like, hey, we must have lost each other, like, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm here, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, where's that? It's on the opposite end of the park. So we have to drive up, meet each other, no cell service, nothing. I think I actually had to meet him somewhere, or I got off on the highway, he was like 4 miles, exits down. It was a whole fucking thing. I'm across the country meeting a stranger, and you abandoned me. Turns out he was driving different routes through the park so that he could take pictures of his truck. I like to take pictures. Here's a picture I took at Redwoods, actually. If I can crop it in, I don't know. I may not be able to. But yeah, we eventually met back up. No surprise that this did not end up well when I got back to my original state, like ghosted. Not me, like he ghosted me. I was also very young, okay, keep that in mind. But he ghosted me. We did not speak again. It was a very bad ending, and there were multiple times throughout the trip that he would just leave me somewhere. Just fucking leave me. And we're seeing like all these beautiful places and everything. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just sit down and enjoy it by myself. I did not realize there is a name for this term, and it is like literally abuse. I did not know this. I thought this was a unique experience. I'm like kind of sad, but also like so relieved to know that I'm not alone in this. Like, this is insane.